All right. So what are you looking for the price system, Andrew?
What are the three advantages and disadvantages and the three things the price system provides?
It provides information, limits, and incentives. That's what it provides. Information, incentives, and limits. And then benefits of it, it's neutral. It's flexible. There's no admin cost. So that's three. Disadvantages, there's no public goods. There's pollution and externalities. And some people can't participate. Hi, Sabrina. Okay. Leah, do you have a question?
Yes. I'm kind of confused on surplus. Is it just the high of supply and the low of demand, like subtracted?
Basically, you're above equilibrium. So think at market day. On Thursday, you've got 50 t-shirts and you haven't sold them because your price is too high. So, you're selling them at $25 a t-shirt and nobody's buying. So think of that. So it's above equilibrium and you've supplied a lot of product, but people don't want it. So you are subtracting what you produced minus what people want. So on the test, when I put at, like I did today, at the point that's above equilibrium, what does it cause? You're just going to put surplus. Okay. Hey, Ben, what's going on?
How's it going, Mr. Guy? What's up?
Not too bad. I can see Joe, but,
Hey, Mr. Guy.
Hey, the Three Musketeers. Any questions you guys got?
All right, let me pull out my pull out my Sega real quick.
Did that answer it for you, Leah?
Yes.
Okay. Sabrina, do you have a question? Sabrina.
I don't think her mic's working yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's having trouble. She's texting me right now.
Okay. There's a chat function in there that she can look at the chat too. So you can chat questions. If it gets too loud, that's what I'll tell people to do is go off the sound and just chat questions and then I'll answer them.
Okay.
Joe, you got anything?
What about when it shifts and when it goes A to B and then when the line actually shifts?
We're just wondering, like, the difference between, like, when it's a shift in quantity, like quantity supply, or like quantity demanded, and like an actual like shift in the line itself.
You're going to have a lot of questions, and you're going to have like 6 questions about shifters, and I'm always going to put in price of the product. So the price of the product is what causes a movement. So if the price is changed, there's a movement along the line. So you're just going from A to B, and that's caused by price. Now,
so if the price changes, you go A to B.
A to B.
Okay.
So if I ask you what shifts demand to the right, and I give you price of the product, that is wrong. It's one of the shifters. So I'm going to be asking you demand shifters, what shift demand to the right, and I'm going to put, and it might be tricky, but I'm going to put, 1 correct answer, 3 supply answers, and then 1 that's like the price. So you have to know those shifters. That's, for demand, it's income, it's population, it's consumer tastes and preferences, it's future expectations. And it could be expectations of prices, or it could be expectations of income, and then price-related goods. Those are the 5 shifters of demand. And I'm going to ask you 3 of them for demand. Supply are those 6 things. Supply is competition, technology, grants and subsidies, price of related goods, future expectations, and I think I said competition. There's 6 of them. Technology. So make sure you have those.
Okay. So Like the shift A to B, or like either
Price went up or down.
Okay.
Yep, the price went up or down.
Cool.
Now I'm going to ask, it looks like I asked about 3 questions, 4 to 5 questions about elasticity. Do you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So elasticity means it looks at the degree to which a change in price causes a change in quantity demanded or supplied. So what we do is if we change price a little bit, what happens to supply? We change price a little bit, what happens to demand? So if it's a large change in price, it's elastic. If it's a small change in price, it's inelastic. So I'm going to ask you an inelastic question, an elastic question. So there seems to be some elasticity ones. So just realize it's you change price first, then you see what happens to quantity. So if it's elastic, it's a large change in quantity. If it's inelastic, it's a small change.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay?
Guy. Will we need to know the 2 causes of the inelastic demand for the test tomorrow?
Pretty much it's asking the definition or giving an example of inelastic. So it's not going to be like, no substitutes and necessity, no.
Cool.
Backtracking a little, can you go through the 6 determinants of supply again? The shifters.
Number 1 would be price of and availability of inputs. So that would be resource prices. Number 2 would be competition.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 would be grants and subsidies. Could be taxes, government action, things like that, grants, subsidies, and taxes. Number 4, price-related goods. You produce whatever you make more of. So if you have a higher price in tacos, you make tacos instead of hamburgers.
Okay.
Expectations of future prices. So you'll make adjustments based on whether the price is going up or down.
And then technology is
Yep.
the last one?
Technology.
And obviously, if you have more advanced technology, you're going to be producing more.
Correct. Remember, left is decrease, right is increase.
Okay.
So I'll say what shifts demand to the left, that means it's a decrease. Then you have to look at it and kind of like go slowly on all these questions. Is it a demand question or supply question? Because I'm interchanging the answers with both supply and demand. So I'm looking at, okay, if I ask you what is demand, look for the answer that deals with demand. Look for the quantity demanded, because I'm going to put quantity supplied in there. I'll put in things and mix it around. So keep them separate and look for that question of what is it demand.
Okay.
What other question?
Again, with supply, or a little more with supply, the elastic supply and inelastic supply. I know elastic demand and inelastic demand, but how does elastic supply work?
Is everybody getting feedback?
Yeah, someone has an external speaker, which is feeding back in their microphone.
So if we could maybe mute the speakers or something?
Or use headphones.
We okay? I don't know. Alyssa, is that you?
I think it's Allie.
You think it's Allie?
Could you put some
Yeah,
headphones on?
that's so true. Could be me.
It's Riley. He's new.
So,
All right. I'm going to go ahead and try to answer that question. So elastic supply is something that you can make easy without any overhead. So anything made at market day is elastic supply because you can increase your quantities. You can cover a large order very easily because it's easy to make. Small change in price. If you got a large, and mostly with supply, it's if the price goes up, you can make more stuff and supply more. Now, inelastic supply is no matter what the price, producers are unwilling or unable to increase quantity supplied. They want to, but they can't because of overhead, because of manufacturing costs, because of all of those things.
Thanks.
Okay, Riley, you got a question?
Let me look through my notes here. I don't think I have any questions. I'm just here to listen and see if I pick anything up.
I put a question on the supply graph, and it shows the direct relationship. So remember, supply is direct relationship, demand is indirect relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Always remember, and I've said it already twice tonight, but price changes first, then quantity, not the other way around. So whenever you look at elasticity, whenever you look at elastic demand, inelastic demand, or supply, price is first, demand is second. If you see any answer that says demand changes first and then price, you know it's wrong. You just know automatically it's wrong.
Okay, so does demand deal more with the consumer?
Yep, only the consumer. And then the supply deals with business, the firm. That's how you can kind of keep them separate. So I'm going to have marginal cost, fixed cost, variable cost, total cost, and revenues. So, and profit. Those will be definitions or formulas. Still getting a lot of feedback.
Yeah, I can't hear that well.
I hear like a lot of feedback.
I know, that's why I'm saying we might have to go to everybody mute, and then we'll just do in the chat room, and I'll talk, and you guys, you know, type questions in the chat room, because there is a chat.
Okay.
So 30 multiple choice. What is the answer to 30?
Hey.
Hey,
Any questions on the graphs?
the one that they meet, I don't know what it's called.
Supply and demand or market equilibrium?
I think so, yeah.
What is your question about that?
Like, do we have to like make sure that they're touched, like, do they have to match? Like the ones that
You should plot them out like we did the last 2 days. Now, if you just do a regular and not plot it out, I'm not going to really mark you wrong for that, but there's no way that you can guess what is the equilibrium price and quantity. So I'm looking at, if you plot it out, you should figure it out and you should see it. If you don't plot it out, I figure at least that question will be wrong, but I'll give you 10 points on the graph. But if you get it right and you don't have it on the graph, I'm going to say you cheated. You know, so I'm just looking at, I don't mind you missing it and saying, well, I'm not sure, it's off, but if you get the right answer, make sure you put it on the graph and we can see it. I'm going to ask you the surplus question, the shortage question. I'm going to ask you equilibrium price and quantity. And then on the other two graphs, I'm going to ask you either to shift them or make a movement along the line. So I might just say, you know, price increase, draw it on the demand curve. I might say draw a decrease in supply and do that.
Okay. I think that's my only question.
What is the difference between change in quantity and quantity demanded and change in demand? I just want to check my answer.
Okay. Change in quantity demanded is a movement along the line caused by price. A change in demand is a shift in the demand curve or the supply curve. I mean, it's really the demand curve like you asked. And then it's caused by one of those non-price factors. So, and I use three different things. I'll either say non-price factor that shifts the demand curve or supply curve. I'll say determinant of demand or supply, or I'll say shifter. They all mean the same thing. So don't freak out if you go like, what is this? I'm really asking you about a shifter of the demand curve or the supply curve. So I could call it a non-price factor. I think there was a couple things that I put on the test. So just don't worry about the wording. It's really just shifting the supply or demand curve.
Okay.
Alyssa, you got a question? I'm waiting.
Yeah, I had a question. What are the 3 things that the price system provides?
Provides information,
Okay.
provides incentives, and limits on buying.
Okay, yeah, I have that.
Okay. Make sure you know the law of diminishing marginal utility. Make sure you know the income effect and the substitution effect. Now, the income effect is about purchasing power. So you might not know this, but the answer is the income effect is the increase or decrease in purchasing power caused by changes in prices. So you feel rich if the price goes down. You feel poor if the price goes up. So purchasing power is how much money you have in your pocket. And
So it has nothing to.
Go ahead.
So I said, so it has nothing to do with the actual income of the consumer itself. It's more of a
On this
thing.
question and this answer, it's based on your prices going up and down. It makes you feel rich. Now, income is a determinant that then causes you to buy more stuff. So income is, if it goes up, you buy more things. If it goes down, you buy less things. That's the shifter of demand. The income effect is if prices go down, you feel rich and you can buy more things, say like the gas pump, it's cheaper now. You feel rich because now you can go to Circle K and buy something else. If the price goes up at the gas pump, you really feel poor. You can't buy anything else. You might starve yourself. So that's kind of like the income effect. And it's called purchasing power.
Okay.
What else we got? And if Sabrina, if you have a question or anybody that's muted, there is a chat room that you can ask a question. What else we got? Marginal cost is easy. Fixed cost, I think you guys got those. Like I said, the 6 shifters, you're going to have to figure out and remember which goes which. And the answers, like when I say, I'm going to ask you, what is the definition of demand? I'm going to have the law of demand in there. I'm going to have the definition of demand in there. I'm going to have the supply definition, the law of supply. So you've got to figure out which one it is. Sometimes, okay, Sabrina, law of supply is the tendency to change production according to price. That is the test answer. It is that tendency of producers to change production when you change price. Now, what it means and what you can put on your study guide is higher the price, the higher production, the lower the price, the lower production. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Candy. You can ask a question now. How you doing? Any questions else about that you might have? That was a good one because I was going to mention that one. So there's some wording that you might find different, so we want to get through that.
You see the once we draw the penguin, more water up there.
Everybody knows what utility is?
Yeah, it's like satisfaction.
And the law of diminishing marginal utility?
Yeah, when you buy a lot of a thing, your satisfaction goes down, and therefore you buy less of it.
And
You
your
stop
demand
buying
goes
it all together for a while.
I think we covered a lot of it for the last 2 days. Questions on your study guide or anything like that? I want you all to get A's.
Any questions on your study guide?
I have all my study guide filled out.
Oh wait, Mr. Guy.
Yeah?
How do you want us to, on the study guide, it shows show the graph. How do you want us to show that graph? Like, can we make it on the computer and just copy and paste it, or?
Yeah, you can do
A
that.
lot of people are drawing it, taking a picture, and then putting it in there. I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
I just want to see the graph because when I look at the points, each graph is worth 10 points.
Okay.
So don't skip those graphs and say, I'm not going to do it because there's probably 5 graphs or something like that. So make sure you have those.
Okay, sounds good.
So technology increases, what happens?
Technology.
Supply goes up.
Supply increases, correct. What happens if population decreases?
Supply goes down.
So
waiting.
demand goes down.
Demand goes down. What happens if taxes go up?
Supply goes down or shifts to the left.
Shifts to the left. What happens if grants and subsidies increases?
It shifts right.
Supply goes
What does?
The demand.
It's supply. Grants and subsidies are supply. So the first thing you think of is it demand or supply? And then is it increase or decrease? And then it's right or left. So
Okay.
think about it, because like I said, there's going to be, out of the 30, there's going to be 6 questions on shifters. Then there's going to be like probably 6 questions on elastic and inelastic demand and supply, 3 for each. So what if you expect prices to increase for hamburgers today? What happens? No, in a month, price of hamburgers increases. What do you do now?
You buy more hamburgers.
You buy more now. So what happens to demand?
It
increases.
goes up.
Increases, shifts to the right. What happens if price of steak goes up? What happens to chicken?
For something else.
Didn't it decrease?
If price of steak goes up, that's a movement along the line. So that is a decrease in quantity demanded. What happens to chicken?
Chicken goes up.
So chicken increases. The demand shifts to the right.
Oh.
Okay? So you're right, Leah, but just remember the terminology is increase, shift to the right. Any increases goes to the right, any decreases go to the left. What if the price of paint decreases? What happens to paintbrushes?
It decreases as well.
Price of paint decreases. What happens?
Demand increases.
Demand goes up for paint.
What
and
happens?
Brushes, and brushes. Demand goes
The
up.
price of paint decreases. What happens to paint?
Oh, so the demand goes up.
Doesn't it increase?
It does not increase.
What?
Oh, if the price goes up. Oh.
It's a movement along the line. It goes from A to B. So it is a movement to the right on the line. So remember, price does not shift anything. Now, what happens to the demand for paintbrushes?
Demand for paintbrushes goes.
If the demand for paint goes down,
Nope. What I'm saying is the price of paint goes down. So
Demand
I go
for
to Lowe's.
paintbrushes.
So
goes
I
up.
go to Lowe's now because the price of paint goes down. I go to Lowe's, I buy more paint because they got a lower price. What happens to the demand for paintbrushes?
It increases.
It increases. It shifts to the right. They're complements. So this is a related good. It's a complement. So one you had a substitute, then the other is a complement. What happens if income goes down? What happens?
Demand,
goes down.
yeah, it goes down.
Yeah.
It decreases, shifts to the left.
So what was my question?
If income goes down, what happens to demand?
It decreases, shifts to the left. What happens if technology increases?
Supply increases.
Okay. What if I expect a raise this year, or what if Americans expect more money this year? What happens?
They
It
buy
goes-
more stuff immediately.
So what happens to demand?
Increases.
Goes up.
Increases, and it shifts to the right. So I make 3 products. I make wheat, corn, and tobacco. Wheat is $3, corn is $3, tobacco is $25. Which one do I produce?
Wheat and corn.
Wheat.
Well, it depends on if you.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
If that's the.
I am a
if it's not
supplier.
the cost or the price.
I am the supplier.
Oh.
I can produce wheat at $3 a bushel, corn at $3 a bushel. I can get Tobacco, I can get $25 a bushel.
Oh, you can get that.
Oh.
That's the price that I can get. Which one am I going to produce?
Wheat and corn, because tobacco is not a needed product, so I don't think the demand is.
Oh, I'm going to make tobacco all day long.
Tobacco, yeah.
Tobacco is almost 10 times the price of the other two.
Not only there's a lot more demand for it since it's addictive.
No, I don't care about demand. Remember, keep them separate. I don't care about demand. What am I doing based on the price? I am going to make the one that's the higher price. You're thinking like a consumer. I'm thinking like a businessman, businesswoman. I make whatever is the higher price. So the supply shifts to the right. What happens to wheat and tobacco? It shifts to the left. Okay? So I would almost write out the shifters and write them out on a piece of paper, increase and decrease what happens to demand and supply, or at least write them down and make sure you have them, because those things are key, with trying to figure out what shifts to the right or left, or if I ask you to draw it, increase or decrease, so you can get those right. What other questions we got? We got about 10 more minutes. We went through a lot. What is 30? I know Ben's gonna forget it.
What?
What is number 30? You're gonna probably go like C or something like that.
No, it's A. I got it down.
You're gonna look at the question and go, "Mr. Guy's wrong. He's like goofing on us," or something like that.
That'd be the best day of my life when I prove you're wrong.
Okay. So remember, there's going to be demand on there. There's going to be a supply on there. There's going to be elastic demand, elastic supply, elasticity. There's going to be the supply chart that asks about the direct relationship.
On the notes, like we've been doing.
Is what?
Is the test basically on the notes we've been doing?
Today I gave you pretty much all the questions. I looked at, there's 30 multiple choice, and it's on those definitions and those, maybe it's a formula, like what's the formula for revenue? It's price times quantity. What is fixed cost, fixed plus variable? What's profit, the amount left over? And then the 3 graphs are going to be just like that we practice.
All right.
Okay? Because I just couldn't understand why people weren't getting the graphs, so that's why I wanted to practice it. I wanted to get it because people didn't know the supply chart or the demand chart, so I wanted to show that. That's what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Okay? How are we doing, Riley?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
Candy, you got any questions? Hey, Max, nice to join us. We're about ready to leave. Hi, Max.
It's
You're the last one to ask questions, so what questions you got?
I just got home. I'm not prepared.
That's okay. This is recorded. Going once? Come on, guys. Got to have something. I mean, I think you guys know it. We've covered it quite a bit.
Like, what are the different formulas for, like, fixed cost, variable cost, total cost, and, like, the marginal cost and that kind of stuff? I'm not sure we went over it.
The fixed cost is a cost that doesn't change. It stays the same no matter the output. So there's no formula. Variable cost, there's no formula. It's the cost that increases as your output increases. So the more you make, the more cost you have. Total cost is the one that's fixed plus variable. Revenue is price times quantity.
Wait, what was it? Revenue?
Revenue is price times quantity. There was a question on there I went over today, and I want to make sure you get it. It was like, what is not, there's a couple not questions, and one of this is, what is not included in cost of production? So cost of production are your variable costs, your fixed costs, your overhead, your rent, your utilities. And then the answer is your revenues. Revenues are not included in your cost of production. That is totally separate. but that seems to throw everybody off. Maybe it's that not question that people aren't used to, but that gets people. Because I'll ask you what is not a determinant of demand. I'll ask you what's not a determinant of supply. So you need to look at it and go, okay, that one's out of place or that one's out of place. Profit, total revenue minus total cost, or the amount left over after all expenses have been paid. Break-even point, total revenue equals total cost, or 0 is your profit. And that's about it. Does that make sense, Ben?
What's that?
Did that make sense for your formulas?
It did. Thank you.
Okay.
What questions do I got?
Nice Arcadia A, Max. I like that. Yeah, I like that. I want one of those.
I have a question. Are there going to be anything about like the price system on the test tomorrow?
Nothing on the price system.
Okay, good. I don't understand that.
Like I said, there's 30 questions. All of those, there's going to be one on, revenue, one on variable cost, fixed cost. There's one on profit. So then there's 6 shifters. So that's right now up to 10. There is demand, supply, the supply graph. So that's 13. So there's very little left over. So most of it is those things. And then, like I said, there's going to be 3 inelastic demand, 3 elastic demand, those type of the elasticity questions. So that's number 6. So you're right now already up to 20. Income effect, the law of diminishing marginal utility, the substitution effect, examples of substitutes, example of complements, and then number 30. So you're almost at the whole test.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
What is the number one problem students usually get wrong?
Well, I've been worried about the graphs because I thought the graphs are the easiest. I think the multiple choice is tricky because, like I said, when I ask for the definition of demand, I'm going to put in definition of demand, the definition of supply, the law of supply, and the law of demand. So they're all very similar. So that can mess people up. But I found that graphs, like the third graph of supply and demand, people do the demand graph fine, they do the supply graph, they don't put it together right. They miss the surplus and the shortage question. They don't see shift the demand, shift the graph, so they miss that 2 points. And then the others, the shifting questions. They miss those. Like, what is a shifter of demand? What shifts the demand curve to the left? What shifts the supply curve to the left? People miss those. They get them mixed up. So I think most people get the definition of demand. Most people get, fixed cost. Most people get some of the basic ones. What else we got?
What's the definition of equilibrium?
It's where supply and demand are equal and they intersect and prices are stable.
Thank you.
What else?
I think I'm good. I'm going to leave now.
Okay. I mean, this ends in about 5 minutes. So we'll just end in 5 minutes because this goes 40 minutes. It says an hour, and then I'll upload the tape and I'll upload that to everybody so you can watch it. But I think we've covered all the questions. Just don't be afraid of the not questions. Look at them, read the question carefully, and just try to keep track. Is it a demand question or supply question? If I ask for a demand question, ignore all the supply answers, all quantity supplied, any of those things, just keep them separate. Sabrina, got a question? Okay, good. Samantha? I know she's there.
I am.
Allie? No questions?
You covered my question.
Okay. Ben, I know you look confused. Yeah, Ben, you look confused.
All right. Always picking on me.
Yeah, I do. It's you're wearing a hat or something like that.
Max has some questions.
Go ahead, Max.
No, I don't.
You just texted me.
So, Max, what's your question? You can put it in the chat room, and I won't embarrass you. I'll only embarrass Ben.
I don't have a question. I think Ben's just messing with me.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again.
How do we find the break-even point? That is where total revenue equals total cost. It's where your profit is zero. That's the break-even.
So we have to know all of, like, the marginal cost analysis, all those formulas and definitions.
We're not going to do a big problem, but you are going to have to know fixed cost, variable cost, marginal cost, cost of production, revenue, profit. Those are on the multiple choice. So pretty much all those definitions that we did, yes. Or formulas. If it's like a formula, it would be on there.
Okay.
Ben, what are you looking at now?
Nothing.
Yeah, you are.
Ben's a fiend.
Alyssa, you got a question?
No.
Okay, we got 2 minutes before we log off. Joe, I can't see you.
I'm right here.
What's going
He's
on?
here.
You got a question?
I think I'm good. I think we covered most of it.
I do too. Practice, review your study guide, look at the graphs that we did. You'll be surprised. I expect all A's from you guys.
Okay. All right.
Ben is saying no, and that's fine. You know. You're shaking your head, Ben. Why?
I'm ready for this.
You were shaking your head. You're going like, no, I'm not.
Oh, I'm not ready.
I don't know. Just my head's hurting, you know?
Your head's hurting.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll post this up when it's done. I hope you guys have a good night. You can text me any questions if you need it, and let me know if you like this, because I can do this before any test, whether it's government or here. A lot of students like it. I don't mind doing it, so just
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like it.
I do too.
It's good before a test.
Yeah, I agree. And normally it'll be like if I do it on a weekend, Sunday is a lot nicer. I know it's late. So like last Sunday for AP, I did it like at 7 o'clock. And that's what I would try to do. It all depends on my schedule. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Okay.
Bye. Good luck. See you tomorrow.
Adios.
Bye-bye. And recording.